spare time, you put all that stuff out?
We can't shut off the sound when you're taking stills.
As we say, buonasera! Buonasera! This is an Italian club, and everybody tonight here is Italian. If you're not Italian, you have to promise that the next marriage will be with an Italian. Right? That's the whole idea, to be a member of the Italian club. Tonight is a very special night. We have a very special guest here with us to offer something that is very dear to Italy, which is opera. He's the musical director of Opera Tampa, and he has been here in Tampa since March 2012, replacing the legendary Maestro Coppola. But when he came with new idea. He re-engineered the repertoire, and with his new program full of energy, he really increased the number of attendance at the Opera Tampa. With his skill and his winning personality, he managed to conquer the hearts of all the music lovers here in Tampa Bay. And I do hope that tonight he will win the hearts of all of us of Valencia Lake. So let me introduce to you the Maestro Daniel Lipton.
Grazie Vincenzo, and buonasera to you all. I cannot promise that my next wife will be Italian, but if we decide to retire, we'll come here. You all made me feel very, very warm and very welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here discussing what I love, one of the things I love most in the world, which is opera, which is music, first of all, but opera in particular. And to sort of kick off our next season for 2014, where our program for 2014 is starting with Mozart's Zauberflöte, Magic Flute, which has never been done in Tampa before in the 20 years that Maestro Coppola was here. How many of you have seen productions of Maestro Coppola at the opera? Oh, not that many, but he was phenomenal. He decided to step down at the young age of 95, and I have been walking in his footsteps, and very happily so. As I mentioned, we're starting with Mozart's Magic Flute. Then I do something called opera. I saw that Il Volo has stolen my title of opera, and they used it for their performance. And then we're finishing with Carmen. But to give you a little bit of background of Mozart, even though an Austrian composer born in Salzburg, I want to give you his names because most of you only know him as Wolfgang Amadeus, but his name was Johannes Chrysostomus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart.
Okay.
Yeah. Born in 1756. I know why we call him only Mozart or Wolfgang Amadeus, that's enough. Goethe said of him that he is a phenomenon like Mozart cannot be explained. And it's quite true. He started, when his father Leopold started giving piano lessons to his sister, at the age of 3, he just picked up what his father had shown his sister and started playing the piano. At 3. I started the piano at 3, but I had a teacher. And he started the violin at 4, also just by seeing someone playing the violin. He picked the violin and played it. He started composing at 5, and for the next 30 years he wrote over 600 pieces. And why speak about Mozart and about Italian opera? Because 3 of his compositions were considered 3 of the best Italian operas. Nozze di Figaro, Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, and Così fan tutte. Such are all women. He did it with Lorenzo da Ponte, who was Italian, a Venetian He was born Jewish. His father converted to Catholicism to marry his second wife, and Da Ponte became a Catholic priest. He had one mistress and 2 children, and when he started opening a brothel, they banned him from Venice. And he had other women, other children. But one thing which not many people know about Da Ponte, those who know about him, was that he came to the United States and started the first American opera company, which after 2 years went down the tubes because opera is the most expensive form of entertainment. And if you don't back it properly, then it's very difficult to keep it going. But we hope that everyone here will help keep the opera company going. To give you a taste of it, we're going to ask Samantha Barnes to come forward with Stephen Penn and give you a feeling of Ach, ich fühl's. I feel it from Mozart's Magic Flute. Say, give them a round of applause, please.
Ich
to be able to achieve a certain level, and he has to be silent, which even for men is difficult, especially when the most beautiful woman comes next to him and says, you know, tell me that you love me, what's wrong, say something. And he cannot say a word because it's part of the ritual. And so that's why this song comes, because she thinks he doesn't care about her anymore and has abandoned her. But a lot of the opera is a lot more fun than that. It's probably the most spiritual opera of Mozart's. And going to our next selection, I wanted to talk about Gaetano Donizetti. He didn't have as many names as Mozart because he came from a poor family. So it was only Gaetano Maria Donizetti who was born in Bergamo in 1797. And he started studying music. He had a scholarship from Simon Mayr, who was a great composer. As it happened later, they both were very next to each other. Not that that makes a big difference, but I suppose it could have made him feel happy. But Donizetti was master of the bel canto, which means beautiful singing, beautiful voice, and the opera buffa, which is comic opera. And his probably most famous operas are Don Pasquale, Lucia di Lammermoor, and L'Elisir d'Amore, from which you will hear a selection. As a conductor, he did the first performance of Rossini's Stabat Mater, and both Rossini and Donizetti were considered the fastest composers. They wrote an opera in 2 months. There's a story that Rossini, when he was composing in bed, one page fell out of the window, or flew out of the window, and instead of getting up and looking for it, he threw it away and started another opera. He had a great sense of humor. He also, his rival, Meyerbeer, who was very popular in France especially, he walked in on him when he was composing and say, "Oh, I see you're composing by heart," which of course didn't make Meyerbeer very happy because, of course, you compose by heart. You're not supposed to copy from anybody else. But there was that rivalry between the two of them. And Rossini was considered a greater composer than Mozart. And when Rossini died, they had to find who's going to be the person to replace Rossini. And it was either going to be Bellini, who was also a master of the bel canto opera, or Donizetti. But Bellini died at a very young age, so it went to Donizetti. Donizetti wrote, let me see, I have it written here. He wrote approximately 75 operas. They're not sure because they haven't found all of them. 16 symphonies, 19 string quartets, 193 songs, 3 oratorios, and 28 cantatas, which is not bad. He could have written more, but he had syphilis and was hospitalized and was visited by Verdi, among other composers and friends, and he died again at a young age, which happened a lot in those days. But you will hear Kyle Stevens presenting Una furtiva lacrima from L'Elisir d'Amore, where Nemorino, the main character, is in love with Adina, who won't pay him any mind at the beginning anyway. At the opera it all ends well, of course. Please welcome Kyle Stevens again.
Una
The next composer I'd like to discuss with you is Giacomo Puccini, but he also had a string of names which I had never heard before. Giacomo Antonio Domenico Michele II Maria Puccini. Yeah, but we all call him Giacomo for short. He is the one who started what is called verismo, which is, it's said it is the realistic depiction of the focus of real life. Because before that it was always about kings and in fact fictitious characters, but this is things which he took really from real life. And Bohème, La Ville Bohème from Murger was about the starving artists in Paris, and probably the most performed opera in the world. So it's totally loved by everyone. I don't know anyone who doesn't like it. And I adore it each time that I conduct it. It's a real honor to be able to work this opera, present it to the audience. And what you will hear this evening is from Tosca, and there is one scene in which the Baron Scarpia, Ettore Scarpia, asks of Tosca, who actually really lived in real life. She was working in the fields as a shepherdess, and the nuns found her and found that she had an extraordinary voice, and sent her to the conservatory, and she then became a diva. And she didn't have great education, so she was quite very passionate about everything, and she was very passionate about the man she loved, Cavaradossi. And when Scarpia was in love with Tosca, of course things like that happen in opera, he says, and he captures Cavaradossi and says, "I will set him free if you spend the night with me." And at the end, when she hears that he gets tortured off stage, and then she finally says, okay. And then when he says, "Tosca finalmente mia," you're finally mine, she reaches behind her, because he was having dinner while all this was happening, and then stabs him with a knife. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but when you see Maria Callas, who reached behind her and stabbed Tito Gobbi with the banana, because she grabbed the first thing she thought was a knife, but she was blind. And Gorby couldn't say, Maria, please, take the knife. So he had to die being stabbed by a banana. And so many things happen in Tosca. There is a scene where at the end she throws herself off the parapet. And funnily enough, she doesn't say, Mario, I'm going to meet you now. She says, Scarpia avanti a Dio. So even taking herself to the tomb, she's taking Scarpia with him after she killed him at the end. Actually with a knife, not just a banana. And so she jumps off the parapet, and thank goodness it's the Castel Sant'Angelo. It's quite far down, but in opera, they put very soft mattresses. And in one production, the diva was complaining that the mattresses were too hard. And each time, and then finally, the technicians got a bit tired of it, and at the performance she said, Scarpia avanti a Dio, and then she jumped off the parapet, and then she bounced back up, and they put a trampoline. Another performance, they don't do that anymore. Another performance, Cavaradossi gets shot by a firing squad. And one performance, the guns were supposed to all go off, and they didn't. So they tried and tried and tried, and then they finally had to go, bang! And he had to die like that. And at the end of the opera also, when she runs and to jump off the parapet, the soldiers are supposed to, go and then look over the edge and say, "Oh my God, there she is!" And all to make it more real, the stage director had gotten real soldiers to do this, and there was some big happening going on in the city at the time, and all the soldiers got called. So all of a sudden, there was nobody to follow Tosca to the end of the parapet. And the stage director got a whole bunch of men and dressed them in the soldiers' uniforms and said, "Okay, now she's going to go and go to the parapet, and then you just follow her." He neglected to tell him not to jump over. And they all jumped over, one after the other. But those things happen in opera. I mean, that's a great thing. But in the selection you will hear, Vici d'arte is where Tosca laments the fact that when she's presented with this ultimatum from Scarpia, and she's very religious as she started being a nun, and she turns to Maria and says, I lived for art, I lived for love, and this is the way you pay me back." And then she eventually pays Scarpia back with the knife or the banana, whichever. Please welcome Samantha with Vici d'arte. that better? The next selection is from Di Capua. Some of you may have heard it. Three tenors have sung it all over the world and made it very famous. But not many people know the story behind it. Enrico Caruso, the great tenor, was doing a tour in Russia, and it was the opposite of weather of Florida. It was full of snow, no sun, and it was gray all over. And he was so homesick for his hometown that his friend who was accompanying him, the composer Di Capua, wrote this song for him, O Sole Mio, my son, S-U-N of course, to make him feel at home. So as not many people know the story, but it's Se non è vero ben trovato. Please welcome Kyle Stevens. who understood every word, and you were fluent in Neapolitan dialect. But it's a very, very, very special song. It's not only in Tosca that so many things happen in opera. There's a place in Parma, in Italy called Parma, where Everybody is an opera enthusiast there. They all know opera backwards and forwards. And in the gallery, they will even turn their backs on the stage so as not to be influenced by the staging and just hearing the voices. And if they don't like what they hear, they boo vociferously. And they boo really very loudly and very long. And if the season is over, they go to Bologna and boo there. But I mean, there are things which are really historical. There's in the performance of Pagliacci, there's the prologue sung by the baritone, which is quite difficult. And the audience didn't like what they heard, and they of course started booing him very, very loudly. And he said to turn to the audience and say, "Aspettate il tenore," which means wait for the tenor. If you don't like me, wait till you hear the tenor. So many things happen in Parma. They throw fruit, they throw eggs. It's everybody's afraid to death to sing there. And some of the great singers like Carlo Bergonzi, who was from there, and Nicolai Gedda, they sang there once and never again. They just won't go back. But so many things happen. There's a poor girl was singing Violetta for the first time in Verdi's Traviata. And it was Parma, so she was very, very nervous, and she didn't sing it her best. It wasn't the worst, and she sang the Sempre Libera, and then she closed her eyes, waiting for the boos, and there was total silence. And one voice from the balconies went, "Ma!" But in another performance of Traviata, there is a part where the doctor, who's a bass, has to sing in the last act. Traviata, like in most operas, the heroine is dying, and Annina, her servant, goes to the doctor and says, "Come va, dottore?" And he says, her condition, she won't last more than an hour or so. And in a particular performance in Parma, of course, the critic, one of the leading critic in Italy, went backstage to say hello to Violetta. And he came nose to nose with the bass. And I don't know if he'd been drinking champagne or if he was a little bit tipsy, but he turned to the bass and said, "If you sing that last phrase out of tune the way you always do, I'll write a review that you won't be able to show your nose at any theater in Italy," which is not the nicest thing to say to somebody before they go on stage. And he was, of course, as they say, sweating bullets, and when came the moment when Annina, the servant, said, "Come va, dottore?" And he went, But from that great opera, you will hear that Di Piavo, where even though she's on the way to dying, but she's still in good enough health to sing this duet with Alfredo, her lover. Please welcome our singers and pianists again. Aren't they great? Let's bring them back on stage for you. Samantha Barnes, Kyle Stevens, and Stephen White. Please come on stage. I thought rather than to have you hear me talk about something maybe which doesn't interest you, I thought maybe you'd like to ask questions of any one of us or all of us of things which you'd like to hear about what we do, how long we've been doing it, or whatever. Whatever is your innermost question that you ever always want to ask artists in opera or whatever. Don't be shy. Go on. Yes, sir.
Two singers. At what age did they decide that they had the gift to be able to develop this into what they have now?
At what age did the singers decide that, or find out that they had the gift and decide that this is what they wanted to do? You want to start, ladies first?
Sure. I actually went to college to be a French horn player, and then decided, no, I think I'd rather be singing. So I started singing, taking voice lessons in college, and I sang my whole life, but mostly musical theater and church. And then quickly learned that not only did I find opera the most appealing just orally and passionately, but my voice fit it the best. And so I was about probably 20 years old when I started really seriously studying. So it's been about, I won't say how long.
For myself, I've been singing since I was in 3rd grade in choirs and church choirs. I'm originally from Michigan, so that's a very big thing up there. And then I really didn't know I wanted to pursue singing as a career. I kind of thought I'd be a lawyer or something like that. But then my mom was like, you should try out for a music school. So I did, and I went, and I was like, hey, this is cool. Maybe I'll be a music teacher. And then my teacher was like, nah. And then I, got roles in the opera and stuff like that, and I really, really enjoyed it. I had done theater as a kid, and graduated, and I was like, what next? So kind of just kept moving, I guess.
Say that again. Where did they study opera and what operas they? Oh, what opera houses?
I actually got my 2 bachelor's degrees. One is in English, so I'm not going to do this, but my 2 bachelor's degrees at the University of Central Florida, and I just found a teacher that fit me very well there, so that's where I got my bachelor's degree. And then I have my master's in opera from Northwestern University in Chicago. And I sang with Chautauqua Opera, I sang with Orlando Opera when it was still around, I sang with Arizona Opera, and then I've sung 4 arias, this is my claim to fame, on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. I was a semi-finalist, national semi-finalist twice there with the big net competition. competition every year. So I have sung on the Met stage as a solo, and if I never do it again, that's okay.
For myself, as I said before, I come from Michigan, and I went to Western Michigan University, actually, in Kalamazoo, for any potential Michiganders out there. And I then am currently at school at USF as a master's student in voice. I just started my second year as a master's student there. And as far as work, I don't have the pleasure of really having as much on my resume, but I did a magic flute up in Michigan in Grand Rapids. I was monostatos, for anyone familiar with the opera. And I'm actually currently cast in our upcoming production of Magic Flute, not as monostatos, but as a couple of smaller roles. So, and also last year I was in, for anyone who may have been there, Un ballo en maschera. I was, again, a very, small compromising role, but hey, that's how you start. So aside from that, not a whole lot. I've done roles at university and stuff like that.
Vincenzo.
Yeah, at the very beginning, you asked people how many went to watch the Coppola.
Yes.
Only few had raised their hand.
Yes.
Not so many people go to watch the Coppola.
Well, let me ask, how many are going to come to our next season and watch our opera? Oh, come on. Be courageous, even if you've never been to an opera before. Okay, that's better. Well, how many of you have never been to an opera before? Good. I say good because then you have a terrific experience waiting for you. The wonderful thing about opera is you don't have to really know what it is. You don't have to worry about what to wear. You don't have to worry about what language is it, because it's all translated above in super titles, and it's extraordinary music, it's extraordinary acting, the sets, the costumes, the makeup, everything which goes into it makes it an extraordinary experience, and you should only see it live. I mean, you can see it on television, but I never watch opera on television. I think it's dull. The only way to experience opera, as so many other things, is live. So you have to be there, and I hope you will be there. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question about
Foreign languages.
How do you learn them fluently, or are you learning what you need to know for the opera?
The question was about foreign languages. How do you learn them, or do you learn what you need to know for that particular opera?
I think a lot, well, personally I don't speak anything but English fluently, okay? But when I get into Germany or Italy or France, I tend to be able to understand what they're saying. I can't always speak back because I have sung in foreign languages for so long. It's a very slow and tedious and detailed process. So when you get an aria, you have to, we take lots of diction classes. He's taking lots of diction classes. And so you learn how to say the words for sure and how different letter combinations sound. And then you have to translate the text exactly, not poetically, not as if you were going to sing it in English, but exact word-for-word translation so that you know, as a singer and an actor, when you're on stage, exactly what's coming out of your mouth at every moment and everyone else's mouth at every moment, so that you can act and react to everyone on stage. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So it's tough.
Yes.
I have essentially the same experience as her, and yes, there is lots of different diction courses throughout, mostly undergrad typically, I find, but there's, I have the benefit of being fairly okay in German, but other than that, the experience is almost exactly the same. It's a lot of sitting down. We were actually talking backstage about singing in Russian because it's very hard to do. It's not something you hear every day, not that you hear Italian even every day over here, but as far as singing in that language, the subtleties of that language are incredibly difficult to understand, and it's to an extent just absolutely rote rehearsal and learning how to make these various phonemes that are unfamiliar to you.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What are your favorite operas?
The next one. The question what is my favorite opera, but it is always the one I'm going to be working on. Because if I had one favorite opera, then I would always be lamenting not to be doing that opera. But each one is my favorite. I'm the Don Giovanni of operas, because I'm in love with each one that I do. And it's all right. I mean, my wife understands.
My favorite, there are lots and lots of operas in English, by the way, and my favorite opera is Susanna by Carlisle Floyd. It is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my entire life. I listen to it all the time, so it's definitely my favorite. Susanna.
This is a very loaded question always, because you'll run into somebody down the road and be like, you're the guy who likes that opera, and then maybe at the time you don't. Yeah. But currently I'd have to probably say that Rigoletto by Giuseppe Verdi. You can't go wrong with that opera as a tenor. It is all about the tenor, as it were. So and tenors tend to be a little bit Kubrick from time to time. So I would say that it's a great opera for tenor. It's not so great if you're playing in the orchestra, because you're just going boom chick boom chick boom chick the whole time. So right. Maestro disagrees, of course, but
gosh, that is a very loaded question. I've played so many operas and coached so many, and it's hard to say what my favorite, because I liked different shows for different reasons. I love Carmen because I love the drama, and I absolutely adore the music. And I love the character of Carmen, as well as José. But if someone nailed me to the wall and said, I've got, what is it? And it would be Così fan tutte of Mozart, because I love the music. The music to it is absolutely sublime. The story is, well, unbelievable. Suspension of, what is it, disbelief? Yeah, going suspension of disbelief, but actually almost any Mozart, because I think it's probably definitely it.
Yes, ma'am.
This question is for you as well as the people on stage. I want to know who your inspirations are.
Who is our inspiration? Speaking for myself, it's mostly the music itself that inspires me tremendously. Naturally, if you see as conductors, probably Eric Kleiber and Carlos Kleiber, I should say, Bernstein, people I've seen who have moved me tremendously by their performances and by the way the music flows through them. And that's what I try to emulate as a conductor as well. But I get my inspiration from the music, definitely, 1000%. It's all there, it's all in the, not here, but it's all in the music.
My academic answer, of course the music, but my academic answer is the text, because I have a lit degree and I'm a huge book nerd. So especially when you get into art song and you have all this poetry to work from, that I love breaking down the words and figuring out why the music sounds the way it does because of the words. The mushy answer is my mother, and my family's very musical, and so if you can sort of imagine the love child of Linda Ronstadt and Karen Carpenter, that's what my mother sounds like. It's just, and occasionally, very occasionally, I hear her voice come out of me, and I get chills every time. So my mom, I really feel her in me when I sing.
Personally, my inspiration, it's kind of a two-tiered thing, but as a tenor, my inspiration probably, I would say, comes mostly from the German-Austrian tenor, Fritz Wunderlich. He was a fabulous singer. And so whenever I'm like learning something that he sang, that's in my iPod, that's what I'm listening to. But on a more practical, everyday basis, I really find music to be an incredible social activity. And when I find people making excellent music around me, that tends to be the best inspiration I can to be like, I need to go practice today. Or, and it's not because it's like I have to be better than all of these people, but it's like, if I'm going to be practicing my craft amidst these people, I don't want to be the weak link. I don't want to be, the one person that everybody's upset with because they're worse than them. I don't know if that maybe is also selfish, but.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. The question was, after following Maestro Coppola, what were my obstacles and my challenges? You know, I've never been a conductor who tries to conduct like somebody else. And irrespective of the conductors I've seen all along my life, and I've studied with extraordinary conductors, I try and find what is essential to myself related to the music. So I have a very wonderful relationship with Maestro Coppola. We speak regularly by phone, and he's invited me to have pasta with him next time I come to New York. I like him very, very much. I find really absolutely no obstacles because I think it's easy to compare and it's impossible to compare. I can't conduct like anybody else other than the way I conduct, and I don't try to conduct like anybody else. And I must say, the orchestra, right from the first rehearsal, there was an extraordinary feeling and camaraderie and a feeling of we're doing this together. It's no longer the time of the Toscaninis and I can name it a lot of other conductors who were you do it my way and that's it. I mean, they do it my way, but it's not, that's not the way. I don't pound my fist or raise my voice. It's a wonderful, congenial atmosphere which happens between the orchestra and myself, and the chorus and the soloists, because we're all there to do our job as well as we can, and each person has their place. It's not the conductor is here and everybody else is down there, or everybody else is here and the conductor is down there either. None of that works. We're all doing our job as well as we can. And I'm very grateful to have the people I'm working with, because they're all extraordinary talents to work with, and it makes it a real pleasure, which we try and transmit to you, our audience. Yes, ma'am?
During the period that a voice is being developed, is there a progression of composers or music that, you begin with and then you work up toward?
Well, I'll answer that for the singers, unless they want to say something else. In the old days, when you used to learn, want to be a singer, an opera singer, you started with very basic tones, and you developed the tones up and down the scale to make something very, very smooth and even. You never sang any opera aria, not for 2 or 3 years. And then after your voice was ready and it was even up and down the scale, then you were allowed to sing an aria, and then you were allowed to learn a role. Today, things go much quicker, and since there are so many opera houses and they're all looking for talent, if you have a good voice, then people get engaged much sooner, and you start learning roles much quicker. And sometimes you're not quite prepared to sing what you're singing, but you need to live, and you need to make a living. So you accept roles that many times you shouldn't accept. And that's very often you see and hear voice. Anyone else? Oh, so making sure that I don't ruin mine, I think to say it has been a lovely evening to be with you. And thank you so much.
You may take your seat, we have a visitor. I think I owe the story of my singing career. When I was a kid, my father took me to the opera, to the La Scala di Milano, which is the theater. La Scala means stairs. And I was so inspired by listening to Caruso. Then I said, well, I want to be a singer. Then I decided to go to a teacher, singing teacher, and I said, I want to be a singer to sing at La Scala di Milano. He said, okay, sing me a song. So I sang him a song. At the end he said, my dear friend, to be a good singer, you need three things. You need the voice, the voice, the voice. With your voice, you can only sing under the stairs all the way in the room. Well, this is actually the second presentation that the Italian American Club is offering to our community here to share our culture. And we're very delighted to... what do you think of Maestro's performance? At the very beginning I said that Maestro Lipton has conquered the hearts of the music lovers in Tampa Bay, and I said I hope he will do the same here. And I think for the number of people now have raised your hands to go and watch opera, I think he's done a good job. He really conquered your heart. So now the Italian American Club is offering an award to Maestro, which says Italian American Club of Valencia Lakes proudly bestowed the Italian Heritage Award upon Maestro Daniele Lipton in recognition for his active contribution to advance the Italian culture and for his continued efforts to enhance the image of Italy and the Italian heritage in the region of Tampa Bay, Florida, signed by Cavaliere Ufficiale, Vince Genovese and Martha Kilborn, Secretary. I hope you enjoyed the evening, and let me tell you that there are only a few tickets left for the Columbus festivity. Jerry Morelli is responsible for that. There's still some more cannoli and a lot of cookies that if you wish you can take them home and enjoy them. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.